Welcome to the text formulas video series. We're going to quickly go over the left, right, and mid formulas in this first video. Let's get started. I've set up a new data example for this video series. This first column is for finance, accounting, and maybe some tax people who understand the general ledger coding. Then this second column, inventory item number, would be used for like an engineer or definitely the supply chain, anybody who's in the supply chain function. And product description for sales and marketing, and then category just for anybody who's using category code. So how do we go ahead and use the left formula to specifically gather what we want from these different columns? First, we need to understand what the left formula even means. And it says right here, after typing left, Excel is telling us it returns the specified number of characters from the start of a text string. So if I open it up with an open parentheses, it's asking for two different pieces of information: the text that we're looking at or that we're talking about, and then the number of characters that I want to return. And remember that this is optional if it's in brackets, but I've never used it without the number of characters because that's what this is for. If you don't use it, it will just return the entire text string. So text, comma, and then let's say the first four digits or first four characters in this cell that we're referencing here. And it shows 2015. Because that's the first four characters starting from the left. So it's real basic formula and real simple to understand. Let's move on to the right formula. Now the right formula does basically the same thing as the left formula, except for it starts at the right side of the text string and goes left in. So if I say I'm looking at, let's look at the GL coding here, and say this cell, comma, then the first three characters starting from the right. So right 1, 2, and 3, it should return 110. And you can see that it returns 110 because it's starting from the right and returning the first three. So again, real simple and easy to do. Now, let's say that we want to do something a little bit more complex, like saying I want to grab 115. Now, how would I do that? Well, we can do that with something that we've learned so far. We can say you start with the left and return the first 6 characters. So that should return 10 and then 115. Now we can say equals right and start taking it from this guy and say comma 3, 115. So combining these two formulas together can kind of pinpoint in to gathering the exact data that you want. Again, I did this in a step so that you can see it easier, that I first grab this with the left formula and then I grab with the right formula. So if I can come in here and I can actually copy this formula, Control C, and open this one back up and replace my reference to this cell, which is really referencing the formula behind it. I'm going to switch it from that reference and then paste in the formula. So this top formula is no longer needed. Now this is kind of complex. You got to remember that formulas evaluate from inside out. It's called nesting formulas. So the first formula that gets evaluated is this left, and then which will return the first 6 characters, and then the right formula kicks in and says return the last 3 characters. There's actually an easier way to go about this, and that's the next formula called the mid formula. Let's learn what Excel has to say about the mid function. It says that it's returning the characters from the middle of a text string given a starting position and length. So again, we're trying to find the middle of something, text within the middle of one cell. So let's say we're talking about this GL coding, and I'm going to use this GL coding because it's really strictly structured. There's 2 characters, then 3, then 4, then 4, then 3. So, and that never changes. It's always that structure. So let's try to return this 115. And so I have the text that I'm selecting here in this first piece of information, and I'm put a comma and say the starting number is, well, I don't want to start at the beginning. So I'm not going to say 1. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and 4 is where this 1 starts. So 4, and then the number of characters I want it to continue reading across. So 3 is the total number of characters for a department. So 3 and the parentheses, and it returns 115. So much simpler than writing that other formula left and then right. So, which is, remember, that we just did. So left, we would have had to type this, comma, 6, and parentheses, and then right, and say 3. And again, you watch me do that in 2 steps. It's always easiest to do these formulas in 2 steps if you're nesting. And remember, nesting is when you have a formula within a formula. And then when you nest, the innermost formula evaluates first, and then it works outwards. So this is no longer needed. This formula has 2 formulas in it, and then this formula has 1. Much simpler. This is your beginning basics of learning text formulas, the left, right, and mid.